I want you to pull out your phone for a second or, just picture your camera roll in your head.
Oh, I'm sure it's an absolute mess.
Right. Like, honestly, how many photos do you snap on a completely average day? 10, maybe 50 if you're on vacation.
Yeah, easily 50.
And if you're anything like me, you're just constantly scrolling through this endless, bottomless archive. I mean, it's a plate of food, a stray cat on the sidewalk, a decent sunset. We point the lens, we tap a piece of glass, and we just blindly co-see whatever reality happens to be sitting right in front of us.
Which is an incredibly passive act when you really stop and think about it.
Exactly.
We're basically treating the camera like a portable photocopier. Whatever the world presents to us in that fraction of a second, we just hit a button, grab a replica of it, and shove it into our pocket. There's almost zero friction involved.
The stack of sources we're diving into today completely shatters that illusion. We've been going through this fascinating material, including this brilliantly detailed Turkish audio deep dive into the philosophy of photography, alongside some deeply researched articles.
Yeah, it's some incredible source material.
It really is, and it's all focused on the most famous landscape photographer in history, Ansel Adams. And the mission for our deep dive today is to basically dismantle the idea that he ever just walked out into the woods and, took a picture.
Right, because the core idea that anchors every single thing Adams did, I mean, the thesis of his entire life's work, is that Ansel Adams didn't take photographs. He designed them.
He designed them. That is such a wild distinction.
It changes everything. For him, photography was never a lucky moment. It wasn't a quick reflex or some happy accident. It was this highly deliberate, almost obsessive act of architectural construction.
So let's actually start right there with what he was seeing. Because when I look at those massive, sweeping, absolutely gorgeous black and white photos of Yosemite National Park, my immediate assumption is just, well, he loved trees.
Right, you think he's just a nature guy.
Exactly. He loved mountains, so he wanted to capture them perfectly. But to understand how you, quote-unquote, design a photograph, we have to look at what was actually registering in his brain when he stood in front of a giant rock.
And the story really doesn't begin with a love for geology or botany. It begins with light.
Light.
Yeah. When Adams first visited Yosemite as a 14-year-old, he wasn't awestruck by the physical trees or the sheer crushing scale of the granite cliffs. The sources describe his reaction as being completely overwhelmed by the light itself.
Wow.
It was almost a physically intense experience for him, like a painful level of awareness of how the light was behaving.
Wait, so the mountain isn't even the actual subject of the photo?
Not at all. The mountain's just the stage. Nature was merely the canvas he was working on. Light was his raw material.
That is so interesting.
And once you view light as a tangible, physical material, the same way a sculptor looks at a lump of clay or a carpenter looks at a piece of wood, your entire relationship with the camera fundamentally changes. You aren't documenting an object anymore. You're gathering a material.
There's an analogy in our sources that made this click for me perfectly.
Oh, the musician one.
Yes. It asks you to imagine a trained musician standing outside in the middle of a massive, violent thunderstorm. Now, a normal person standing there just hears the deafening roar of the wind, right? It's just noise.
Complete chaos.
But the musician, they hear specific acoustic frequencies, they pick up on rhythmic patterns, the pitch of the wind howling through a narrow gap. They hear the structure inside the chaos.
Which perfectly maps onto how Adams saw the physical world.
Wow. So he's not looking at a landscape. He's looking at a giant math equation, like a physics problem made of bouncing light just waiting to be solved.
Exactly. And those photographers operate on a very simple chronological timeline, right?
Right.
They see a scene, they shoot it, and then they look at the negative to evaluate what they actually captured.
Right.
Adams reversed that entire timeline. He didn't wait to see what the camera caught. And that is the foundation of his concept of pre-visualization.
Okay, so if you're looking at the world as a math equation, I guess you don't just accept the first answer nature hands you.
Definitely not.
So pre-visualization, meaning he sees the final image in his head before he even unpacks his gear.
Yes. He felt that because light is a raw material, he didn't have to passively accept it. He could actively shape it in his mind before a single piece of film was even exposed.
That's intense.
It is. And the major turning point for this was in 1927. He was setting up to photograph Half Dome in Yosemite, a piece that would become famously known as Monolith.
Okay, put us on the mountain with him. What is he looking at?
So he's facing this towering sheer face of granite. He looks through the ground glass of his camera, but the physical reality in front of him, The normal hazy daytime sky, the flat gray color of the rock, it simply doesn't match the heavy, dramatic, imposing feeling he wants to convey to the viewer.
The reality just isn't intense enough.
Right. It's boring.
So what does he do? Does he just, like, underexpose the whole thing to make it look dark and moody?
If he did that, the rock would go entirely black and he'd lose all the texture.
Oh, true.
Instead, he envisions the final printed photograph he wants. He decides he wants the rock to remain bright and detailed, but he wants the sky to be a heavy, dramatic void of black.
But it's the middle of the day. The sky is bright blue.
So he reaches into his bag, pulls out a dark red glass filter, and physically attaches it over his camera lens.
Okay.
In black and white film chemistry, a red filter intentionally blocks blue light wavelengths from ever passing through the lens.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By blocking the blue light of the sky, he stars that part of the film of any light. He forces a bright, sunny afternoon sky to register on the chemical film as a void of dramatic, heavy black ink.
Wait, hold on. I need to process this.
Yeah, that's a lot.
He is dragging these massive, heavy, large format wooden cameras up a mountain path. He's hiding under a thick, dark cloth, meticulously calculating wavelengths, screwing on specific glass filters to actively change reality on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't he completely missing the spontaneous magic of being in nature? Like, what if a majestic eagle flies by, or a deer suddenly jumps into the perfect spot in the frame?
Well, if we look at his broader philosophy, a random bird flying into the frame isn't a magical moment. To Ansel Adams, that bird is just a composition-ruining stain.
A stain. He really doesn't care about capturing a magic moment.
Not at all. He's dictating the scene, not reacting to it.
Yeah.
Chance plays no role in his process.
No.
Zero. If he determines that a fluffy white cloud needs to be in the upper right corner of the frame to balance the visual weight of a dark rock in the lower left, he does not just cross his fingers and hope the wind blows it there.
Let me guess. He waits.
He sits and waits for hours until the atmosphere perfectly aligns with the blueprint in his head. He is building the image layer by layer in his mind.
Okay, so having this master blueprint in your head is an amazing superpower. But a blueprint doesn't magically print itself.
Right.
How do you actually guarantee that the vision in your brain transfers onto a piece of chemical film? There has to be some sort of translation mechanism.
And that translation mechanism is widely considered his greatest invention, the zone system. It's the mathematical formula that made his pre-visualization physically possible.
I will admit, when I first saw the phrase zone system in the research, my eyes kind of glazed over.
Oh, I don't blame you.
It sounds like a dense, extremely dry technical manual.
It really does. But the underlying concept is actually beautifully simple once you strip away all the heavy jargon.
Okay, break it down for us.
Imagine taking all the light in the universe, from the pitch black of the cave to the blinding white of the sun, and laying it out on a physical ruler.
Okay, I'm visualizing a ruler. 0 at one end, 10 at the other.
Exactly. And this ruler is divided into 11 distinct zones. Zone 0 is pure, absolute black. Zero light, zero detail, just empty ink.
Got it.
And Zone 10 is pure paper white, like staring directly into a light bulb. But the magic of a photograph, the actual texture that makes it feel real to our eyes, lives in the middle zones.
The middle is where the actual information is.
Precisely. Zone 3, for example, is a very dark shadow, but it is a shadow where you can still clearly see the rough, splintery texture of tree bark.
Right.
And Zone 7 is a very bright highlight, but it's a highlight where you can still see the fluffy, cotton-like texture of a snowbank or a cloud.
Yeah.
It hasn't turned into a blown-out, featureless white blob.
So he categorizes all the light he sees into these buckets. But how does that ruler actually help him operate the camera machinery?
Because he operated on one unbreakable golden rule. Expose for the shadows, develop for the highlights.
Expose for the shadows, develop for the highlights.
Okay, let's break that down mechanically. What does that actually mean when he is standing on a mountain pressing the button?
It means that when he sets his camera shutter speed, how long he lets light hit the film, his primary goal is to make sure just enough light enters the lens to capture the dark tree bark perfectly in Zone 3.
He secures the darkest details first.
Exactly. But there is a massive physical problem with doing that. To let enough light in for the dark shadows, he has to leave the shutter open for a relatively long time.
Right, which means
the bright sunlit snow in the background of the shot is going to get blasted with way too much light. The snow is going to blow right past Zone 7 and become a blinding white Zone 10.
Right, because the film is just getting cooked by the bright light while it waits for the shadows to show up.
Normally, yes, the photograph would be completely ruined. But Adam solves that in the second step of his rule, develop for the highlights. How does he fix it in the development stage? I always thought you just drop the film in a chemical bath and set a timer.
Well, it's all about the physical chemistry of the film. The film is coated in silver halides, which react to light. When he takes the picture, the bright snow gets hit with tons of light energy, while the dark bark gets very little.
Okay, that makes sense.
Later, in the pitch-black darkroom, he places that film into a liquid chemical developer. This liquid acts like an accelerator, turning those exposed silver particles dark.
Right.
But here is the trick. The chemicals react to the heavily exposed areas, the bright snow, much, much faster than they react to the shadow areas.
Ah, so it's a race.
A very precise mathematical race. The shadows are developing slowly, creeping along. The highlights are racing toward pure white.
Oh, wow.
He watches the clock, and he physically pulls the film out of the chemical bath at the exact mathematical second. The snow reaches zone 7, preserving all that beautiful, fluffy texture before it has a chance to ruin the shot. He stops the chemical reaction dead in its tracks.
Hold on, I'm realizing something.
What's that?
This is literally the HDR setting on our smartphones.
Yes.
Or like the shadow and highlight sliders in an app like Lightroom.
Yeah.
When I take a picture of a sunset and the foreground is completely dark, I just put my thumb on the shadow slider and drag it to the right to reveal the trees.
Exactly.
Then I slide the highlights bar to the left to get the detail back in the bright clouds.
Ansel Adams was essentially the original manual algorithm.
That is wild.
He was doing that exact computational math in his head. He was using physics and raw chemistry to force an impossible image into perfect balance, decades before we had computer chips to do it for us.
He absolutely refused to let the camera just average the scene out.
Right. He commanded the shadows to be exactly this dark and the highlights to be exactly this bright.
That is just staggering to think about. So, okay, the math is done. The film is perfectly exposed. He stops the chemistry, and he's got his negative. He's finished.
Not even close.
Really?
Our sources point out that Adams believed the click of the shutter was really only the halfway point of the journey.
The halfway point.
Yeah. The negative was just the gathering of raw data. Adams had a very famous saying, the negative is the score, the print is the performance.
Oh, like a sheet of music.
Exactly. The film is just ink notes on a page. It has all the information, but it has no soul yet. The darkroom is where he physically sculpts the light onto the final paper.
Right.
It's where the performance actually happens.
Yeah.
He used manual techniques called dodging and burning.
Okay, so if the negative is already perfectly developed, how does he alter it on the paper? Does he just shine a brighter light on the parts he wants darker?
That's exactly the mechanism.
Huh.
To make a print, you shine a light through the negative onto a piece of light-sensitive paper.
Okay.
If he wants a specific area of the photo to be darker, say, the edges of a cloud, he literally cups his hands together under the light beam to create a small hole, funneling extra light onto that specific spot on the paper.
Oh, wow.
Adding extra light makes it darker.
That is burning.
And dodging is the opposite. Right. If he wants an area to stay brighter, he takes a small piece of cardboard, taped to a wire, and he physically waves it over that part of the paper, blocking the light from hitting it.
That's incredible.
He is physically waving his hands and tools under the enlarger, sculpting the shadows and highlights onto the paper in real time. It's literally a choreographed physical dance.
The sensory detail of that is just incredible to imagine. He's alone in the dark, dancing with his hands to paint with light.
It's beautiful. And the most incredible high-stakes example of this performance is the story behind his iconic 1941 photograph, Moonrise, Hernandez, New Mexico.
Oh, I have definitely seen this photo. It has this incredibly dark, sweeping, empty sky, a bright moon floating in the middle, and these stark, glowing white crosses in a little cemetery down at the bottom edge.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's haunting.
And the story of how it was made is an absolute masterclass in his obsession with control under pressure. He was driving down a highway with his son and an assistant, racing the sunset. The light was dying fast. He looks out the window, sees this incredible scene with the moon and the crosses, slams on the brakes, and starts frantically yelling for them to set up the tripod and a massive 8x10 camera.
So it is pure panic on the side of the road.
Total panic.
Because the sun is dropping and the light hitting those white crosses is going to vanish in a matter of seconds.
Exactly. And in the middle of all this chaos, he realizes he can't find his light meter.
Oh, no.
It's lost in the car. He has absolutely no way to measure the zones of the landscape.
So what does he do? Does he just make an educated guess based on his experience?
Ansel Adams doesn't guess.
Fair enough.
His brain immediately looks for a physical constant. He realizes there's exactly one known mathematical constant in the scene in front of him, the luminance of the moon.
The luminance of the moon.
He knows from scientific fact that the moon reflects exactly 250 candles per square foot of light.
Wait, how does knowing the brightness of the moon way up in the sky help him figure out the shadows on the ground?
Because it gives him an anchor for his zone ruler.
Oh.
He knows that 250 candles per square foot perfectly places the moon at zone 7 on his scale.
That is genius.
Since he knows exactly where the moon sits mathematically, he can instantly calculate the precise shutter speed required to keep the moon at zone 7.
Wow.
He anchors the entire exposure to that one celestial object in his head, sets the camera, clicks the shutter, and gets exactly one single shot before the sun drops and the light is completely gone.
That is just, it's a completely different way of interacting with reality. So he gets the negative back to his lab, develops it, and it's a masterpiece right out of the camera.
Actually, no.
No.
When he developed that negative, it was totally flat. The sky was not that dramatic, heavy, inky, dark void you see in the famous print. It was just a normal, slightly gray, boring, late afternoon sky.
Wait, seriously, the sky wasn't black in real life?
Not at all. The masterpiece was almost entirely created during the darkroom performance.
You're kidding.
He took that flat negative and he burned the sky for minutes. He funneled intense light onto the top half of the paper, artificially plunging that sky into an impossible inky darkness.
Wow.
Then he heavily dodged the crosses, keeping the light off them so they remained stark and bright. He violently, intentionally forced the viewer's eyes away from the vast sky and pushed them down onto those glowing white crosses.
Which brings up a really fascinating, almost philosophical question for us as viewers.
Yeah.
If he is completely altering the sky, turning it pitch black when it was actually just a hazy gray, and he's making these crosses glow artificially, is he manipulating us? Like, is this photograph even real?
It's a profound question about the nature of the medium. Is it a lie?
Right.
The sources we're looking at argue that no, it's not a lie at all, because his goal was never to show you a dry, documentary record of the physical reality. He is trying to give you an intentional intensification of the feeling of the place.
So it's emotional reality taking priority over physical reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He felt an overwhelming sense of isolation, vastness, and drama when he looked at that little cemetery under the moon. And he manipulated the chemical tones to ensure that you, standing in a gallery decades later, feel that exact same heavy weight in your chest.
That's powerful.
It's an honest manipulation of senses.
Honest manipulation. I love that framing. But, you know, if we really want to grasp this obsessive, highly mathematical level of control, it almost makes me wonder if he's missing what photography is actually famous for, just capturing a fleeting, authentic moment of life.
Yeah, that's the classic debate.
To appreciate Adams, I feel like we have to look at the exact opposite end of the spectrum.
And that naturally points us directly to the French photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson.
Yes.
If Ansel Adams represents total architectural control, Cartier-Bresson represents total fluid intuition.
The contrast drawn in our sources is just brilliant. Cartier-Bresson isn't lugging a wooden box up a mountain.
Right.
He is walking around the crowded, chaotic streets of Paris with a tiny, fast, handheld 35mm Leica camera. He's practically invisible to the people around him.
And Cartier-Bresson's entire philosophy was built around what he called the decisive moment.
The decisive moment.
He doesn't set up a tripod and wait for 3 hours for a cloud to move. He walks, he observes the chaos of human life, and he waits for reality to beautifully accidentally align.
Right, like a man midair jumping over a puddle or a bicycle passing a spiral staircase at the perfect angle.
Exactly. He is constantly asking himself the question, when should I shoot?
When?
His entire medium is time. He slices a tiny fraction of a second out of reality and preserves it. But Adams' medium isn't time.
It's tone.
His medium is tone. Adams isn't asking, when should I shoot? Because the mountain isn't going anywhere. He is asking, how should this look?
Wow. It makes me reevaluate how we all use our cameras today.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about your own camera roll again. When you're at a party and you snap a bleary, rapid-fire picture of your friend laughing in the middle of a sentence or your dog jumping off the couch, you are channeling Cartier-Bresson.
You're hunting for the decisive moment.
Right, you're hunting. But when you sit on your couch for 10 minutes before posting a photo, swiping through different filters, pulling up the shadow sliders, tweaking the contrast until the mood of the image perfectly matches how the sunset made you feel.
You are channeling Ansel Adams.
Yes. You have stopped capturing the moment and you have started constructing an image.
Which is really the core realization we want to leave you with today. For Ansel Adams, a photograph was never an accident.
Never.
From the painful awareness of light as a teenager, to the pre-visualization on the mountain, to the mathematical precision of the zone system, all the way to the physical, choreographed performance of the darkroom. It was a deliberate, designed construction from start to finish.
He proved that the camera isn't just a recording device. It is a tool for translation.
It completely rewires how I look at his work. I used to look at a print and think, wow, what a pretty mountain. Now I look at it and think, wow, look at the architecture of that light.
And it forces us to ask where the medium is actually heading.
Oh, definitely.
If Ansel Adams believed that physical reality was just raw material to be manipulated, it leaves us with a pretty provocative thought about the future.
Especially with technology today.
Right. Today, we have digital artists rendering photorealistic light from scratch using 3D software and video game engines without a camera, without a lens, and without a physical mountain.
Just pure mathematical light.
Just math. If Ansel Adams were alive today with his obsession for absolute control over every single shadow and highlight, would he even bother dragging a camera up a mountain?
Probably not.
Right. Or would he just skip the physical world entirely and build his perfect light from scratch on a computer screen?
And honestly, today, when you pull out your phone, point it at a sunset and hit the button, the AI inside instantly balances the shadows, darkens the sky, and adjusts the contrast in milliseconds.
Yeah.
So, are you really taking the picture? Or are you just letting the software act as the ghost of Ansel Adams in your pocket doing all the designing for you?